Sugar Mama, 2025, is a psychological thriller that explores grief, manipulation, ambition, and blurred emotional boundaries through the unlikely arrangement between a wealthy widow and a struggling college student. The film centers on Veronica King, a powerful tech investor and philanthropist who appears composed and visionary in public but privately wrestles with unresolved trauma from the death of her husband and the emotional distance of her only son. The story opens with Veronica speaking at a school event where she is introduced as a pioneering investor who backed innovative startups like Generation Coders. She promotes financial literacy and low-risk investing, presenting herself as disciplined and forward-thinking. During the event, she meets Mike Shepard, a charismatic computer science student who admires her career. He asks about mentorship opportunities for his own health tech app, but she declines. Still, the encounter lingers in her mind, partly because Mike reminds her of her son Jason, confident, ambitious, and about the same age. Veronica's private life contrasts sharply with her polished public persona. She confides in her close friend Greg, a doctor and longtime business associate, about how Mike's mannerisms evoke memories of Jason. Greg worries that Veronica may be reopening emotional wounds tied to the dark period after her husband's death. Veronica has been in therapy for years, still struggling with waves of grief even a decade later. Her son travels the world on an alphabet-themed journey, visiting countries in alphabetical order while avoiding deeper conversations about their shared loss. The turning point comes when Veronica learns about a sugar dating app called Sugar Finders. Initially introduced to the concept by an older woman who casually describes the pay-to-play companionship model, Veronica becomes intrigued not for romance but as a potential investment opportunity. She assigns her assistant Andrew to investigate the app's profitability. The data shows promising revenue projections, prompting Veronica to conduct a field test by creating a profile. Meanwhile, Mike is facing financial strain. He had been in a sugar arrangement with a demanding older woman named Beverly, but she abruptly ends their agreement, refusing to pay the remainder of what she owes him. Mike relies on these arrangements to pay his tuition and support his girlfriend Gia, who believes in his tech ambitions. When Mike discovers Veronica's profile on Sugar Finders, he sees a major opportunity. If he secures an arrangement with someone as wealthy as Veronica, he could stabilize their finances and potentially fund his startup. Veronica and Mike meet under the pretense of discussing business. She makes it clear she is not seeking companionship or intimacy. She wants insight into the sugar baby experience to inform her investment decision. Mike, however, approaches it strategically. He presents himself as ambitious yet emotionally vulnerable, sharing stories of a distant military father and an absent mother. Veronica reveals she is a widow with a son Mike's age. The emotional parallels are subtle but powerful. They negotiate terms, $10,000 for 3 months of exclusive accessibility. Veronica insists he disclose any other relationships or sugar arrangements. Mike lies, hiding both his girlfriend and previous sugar mama. Their agreement begins as business, but the dynamic quickly becomes complicated. Veronica brings Mike to a high-profile tech gala, dressing him in expensive suits and coaching him to project elite confidence. Mike impresses investors by presenting his health app idea Well Mentor, which offers personalized recommendations based on user data. He demonstrates charm and social intelligence, drawing admiration. However, tensions rise when Beverly appears at the event, revealing she once had a similar arrangement with him. Veronica is visibly unsettled but maintains composure. That evening, Veronica invites Mike to stay at her mansion, claiming loneliness in the large house. She offers to draw him a bath, tuck him in, and even read him a bedtime story, behavior that feels maternal rather than romantic. Mike misinterprets the situation and makes a sexual advance, assuming that is expected. Veronica slaps him, furious that he has sexualized what she views as a controlled, non-intimate arrangement. In that moment, it becomes clear she is projecting her maternal instincts onto him, subconsciously replacing her absent son. The house itself becomes an eerie presence. Mike hears noises in the basement and feels watched. Veronica appears at odd hours, checking on him while he sleeps. Her fixation intensifies. She refers to him by her son's name, Jason, on more than one occasion. Though she later apologizes for hitting him, her behavior remains unsettling. The next morning, Mike meets Greg, who warns him not to toy with Veronica's emotions. Greg hints at a complicated bond with her, possibly romantic, but insists his concern is genuine. When Mike cuts his finger during breakfast preparation, Veronica reacts with exaggerated alarm, reinforcing her need to nurture him. The maternal dynamic deepens, blurring boundaries. Back home, Gia questions Mike's decision to stay overnight. She senses something psychologically off about Veronica. Mike brushes it aside, rationalizing that Veronica's strange behavior is harmless and financially beneficial. He insists their relationship is strictly platonic and strategic. As the story progresses, Veronica's grief becomes more pronounced. Therapy sessions reveal her guilt over not protecting her husband and her fear that she failed as a mother. She clings to Mike as a substitute, attempting to recreate moments she lost with Jason. The more Mike accepts her money and attention, the more dependent she becomes. The tension escalates when Mike begins pushing his tech app more aggressively, hoping Veronica will invest beyond their arrangement. He sees her emotional attachment as leverage. However, Veronica becomes increasingly possessive, demanding exclusivity and constant availability. She monitors his movements and questions inconsistencies in his stories. Eventually, Gia uncovers more about Veronica's unstable behavior and urges Mike to end the arrangement. Mike hesitates, torn between financial survival and mounting danger. Strange incidents at Veronica's home intensify: locked rooms, unexplained noises, and hints that she may be hiding something connected to her son's past. Tension escalates when Veronica encounters Gia on campus. She deliberately inserts herself into Mike's daily life, offering smoothies and acting possessive. Soon after, she drops devastating news: tech executive Bernard Klein loved Mike's app idea and offered him a coveted internship. But Veronica declined on his behalf without consulting him. Her justification is that she pays him enough to mentor with her. Mike is furious. What he saw as networking opportunity, she sees as exclusivity. Control begins to eclipse mentorship. Gia urges Mike to end the arrangement. She senses Veronica's behavior is escalating, keeping him overnight, interfering with school, isolating him from opportunities. Mike hesitates, rationalizing that Veronica is new to this dynamic and unaware of how controlling she seems. Financial dependence clouds his judgment. Soon a woman named Nora approaches Gia with alarming accusations. Nora claims her sister Carla, who was Richie's publicist, died in the same car crash that killed Veronica's husband a decade earlier. Carla had confessed to an affair with Richie. Nora believes Veronica discovered the betrayal and orchestrated the fatal crash. Though police ruled it an accident, Nora insists something darker happened. Before Gia can fully process this, Nora is abruptly attacked and disappears from the narrative, reinforcing the sense of invisible danger surrounding Veronica. Gia herself is violently assaulted on campus shortly after attempting to contact Mike repeatedly. Mike, distracted at Veronica's home, misses her calls. When he finally sees her at the hospital, she is shaken and terrified. She tries to warn him, Veronica is dangerous. Veronica arrives playing the concerned benefactor, offering to pay medical bills and inviting Gia to stay at her mansion. Gia becomes hysterical when Mike prepares to leave, with Veronica screaming that he is in danger. That night, Veronica refuses to let Mike return to the hospital. By morning, Greg delivers devastating news: Gia succumbed to her injuries. The grief shatters Mike. He lashes out at Veronica, accusing her of orchestrating everything. She comforts him in a disturbingly maternal way, calling him son and insisting they need each other. The truth begins to unravel when Andrew, Veronica's former assistant, calls Mike from jail. Andrew reveals that Veronica instructed him to attack Mike to rough him up so he would become more dependent and compliant. Andrew also confirms darker suspicions: Veronica discovered Richie's affair with Carla before the crash. Through a haunting flashback, the film depicts the night of the fatal accident. Veronica and Richie argue in the car. The brakes fail. The vehicle careens out of control. Veronica survives, Richie dies. In a shocking revelation, young Jason was also in the vehicle and dies from his injuries. Veronica's public narrative concealed her son's death, entirely erasing his existence from records and media coverage. This revelation reframes everything. Jason has been dead for 10 years. The postcards Veronica claimed to receive were fabrications. Her references to his travels were delusions constructed to preserve her sanity. Mike was never a reminder of her living son, he was a replacement for a dead child. Andrew further reveals a horrifying plan. Greg, her closest ally, had secretly tested Mike's blood after the staged fight. Mike's rare O-negative blood type matches Jason's. Veronica and Greg planned to harvest Mike's heart for a transplant. Jason, though officially dead, had survived the crash in critical condition years earlier in a hidden medical facility funded by Veronica's wealth, or so she believes. In reality, her obsession with resurrecting her son has blurred fact and fantasy. Whether Jason is truly alive or only alive in her delusion remains ambiguous, but Veronica believes Mike's heart will save him. Mike attempts to escape but is captured and imprisoned in Veronica's basement. She confines him like a child, bringing meals and speaking to him as sunshine. When he calls her mom in desperation, she melts emotionally, embracing the illusion. She insists a mother will do anything for her child. Her nurturing tone masks monstrous intent. Mike eventually escapes and runs to Greg for help. Greg initially feigns concern, but it becomes clear he has been complicit all along. He confirms Mike is a perfect match. Veronica needed Mike's heart. Greg, bound by loyalty and obsession of his own, agreed to assist. Mike is sedated and prepared for surgery. In the film's final act, Veronica meets her therapist Sharon, again appearing calm and triumphant. She claims she has found herself. A young man implied to be a surgically altered or psychologically broken Mike enters the room, now compliant and referring to himself as Jason. Veronica beams with pride. They discuss traveling to Aruba together. When Sharon casually mentions enjoying local dessert, Veronica quickly interjects that Jason cannot consume dairy, referencing Mike's allergy, not her original son's history. The slip reveals that she has fully merged identities, rewriting reality to suit her fantasy. The final scenes suggest that Mike survived the surgery but lost more than blood, possibly subjected to psychological conditioning rather than organ removal. Alternatively, the transplant may have occurred and this Jason is a delusion. The ambiguity leaves the audience unsettled. Veronica smiles, serenely convinced she has her son back. She whispers that she prayed for this moment and will never let him go. Sugar Mama ultimately reveals itself not as a story about transactional romance but about pathological motherhood. Veronica is not motivated by lust or greed but by grief so profound it fractures reality. Her wealth enables her to manipulate events, silence records, and weaponize medicine. Mike's ambition and deception entangle him in a nightmare he underestimated. Gia's death becomes collateral damage in Veronica's quest to resurrect the past. The film closes on an image of control disguised as love, Veronica preparing to board a private jet with Jason, her fantasy complete. Whether he is truly saved or entirely broken is left unanswered. What is certain is that Veronica believes she has restored her world and in doing so destroyed everyone else's. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.